Every man wants to be chased, but only the man who walks away creates the hunt. Withdrawal isn't a weakness, it's the rarest power. You've been taught to chase, to prove, to perform. But has anyone taught you how silence sharpens interest, how distance draws gravity, how restraint builds mystery? What happens to a man's value when he becomes the scarce one instead of the always available one? What happens to her desire when she's forced to wonder instead of always knowing? Picture this: a 26-year-old glued to his phone, sending 3 texts before she replies once. His heartbeat depends on a notification. He calls twice. She rolls her eyes. Same office, different man, he answers, only after he finishes his workout. He pauses before speaking. He lets silence hang. She refreshes her messages. She rewrites her replies. She feels the pull of the unknown. If he drowns her in validation, you drain her curiosity. If he waits, you make her invest. Power isn't in chasing. It's in controlling your impulse to chase. He didn't disappear. He became undeniable. He didn't play games. He lived standards. You've been told that masculinity equals pursuit. That hunger proves you're worthy. But hunger without discipline is desperation. Stillness is not emptiness, it's density. It's having so much life that you don't spill it all at once. It's the pause between notes that creates music. Do you understand how valuable your attention becomes when you stop giving it away like spare change? Do you see how mystery builds when you protect your story instead of narrating every detail? Think of a lion in the wild. He doesn't roar for attention every hour. He moves slow, deliberate, and controlled. His presence alone changes the air. That's what withdrawal can do for you, not punishment, not manipulation, but a living signal. I have standards. I'm not chasing crumbs. I'm already full. If she accelerates, you slow down. If she withdraws, you stand still. You create a rhythm she has to match, not the other way around. And when she finally leans in, it's because you've become the gravitational center, not the orbiting satellite. This is the paradox you were never taught. Desire doesn't grow from flooding, it grows from scarcity. Influence doesn't come from noise, it comes from patience. Women don't obsess over the man who endlessly chases. They obsess over the man who calmly withdraws. Stop thinking of withdrawal as loss. Start seeing it as leverage, the leverage that transforms you from an option to an obsession. You've been lied to about attraction. You've been told to chase, to invest first, to prove your worth with constant attention. But Schopenhauer's law of erotic power says the opposite. The less you overinvest, the more she invests. The man who withdraws with purpose doesn't lose value. He multiplies it. The question is, can you hold that line when everything in you wants to rush forward? Can you build a life so solid that your silence speaks louder than your words? Picture a guy at 25. He texts 3 times before lunch, scrolling between apps, desperate for a pingback. Same building, different man. He's deep in a project, phone face down, eyes steady. She waits for his reply, wonders what he's doing, and starts investing first. Same woman, 2 realities, 1 law. If he floods her with attention, you drain the mystery. If he waits, you make her invest. He didn't vanish. He became undeniable. He didn't ignore. He prioritized. This isn't manipulation. It's magnetism born of self-respect. You're not pulling away to punish. You're pulling back to build weight. You're teaching her what your time is worth by how you handle it. And every second you don't overgive, your value compounds like interest. Think about your own life. Would you desire you if you were her? Would you feel gravity pulling you closer or static pushing you away? That's the test. If you're tempted to chase harder, slow down. If she accelerates, you are steady. You set the rhythm. You hold the frame. Because when you do, she invests first, she invests more, and she invests deeper, not because of a trick, but because restraint makes you rare, and rare is irresistible. The myth says you must chase harder, prove yourself, win her over by sheer volume of attention. But look at the evidence if chasing worked. Why do the men who chase hardest lose fastest? Why do the constant texts, the non-stop validation, the overgiving of energy lead to her drifting away? Schopenhauer called it long before modern dating apps. Attraction rises with scarcity and selectivity. When you're always there, you're invisible. When you're rare, you're magnetic. Picture this micro-story. A 24-year-old floods her inbox with compliments. She drifts. Another man replies once a day, calm and precise. She waits, checks, fantasies. Same woman, different pull. He didn't disappear. He became undeniable. He didn't ghost. He gravitated. This is psychological gravity, not punishment, not manipulation, but the weight of self-possession pulling her attention back. Ask yourself, are you moving like a man of gravity or a man of desperation? Are you training her to take you for granted, or training her to lean in because your time is scarce? Every second you overshare, overspend, overchase, you erode mystery. Every moment you hold back with purpose, you let curiosity bloom. If she accelerates, you slow down. If she withdraws, you stand still. That's the rhythm of standards, not games. The stillness forces her to reveal her intent, her patience, her character. You're not withdrawing to punish, you're withdrawing to filter. You're not silent because you're scared. You're silent because you're selecting. Think of history. Kings didn't campaign for every alliance. They let envoys travel to them. Artists didn't mail every critic. Their work created a pull. Scarcity framed status then. Scarcity frames status now. And nothing in human desire has changed. If he drowns her in validation, you drain her curiosity. If he waits, you make her invest. She's not obsessed with the man who is available at every second. She's obsessed with the man who appears deliberate, composed, and hard to earn. That's how you break the always pursue myth and replace it with the forgotten law. This isn't about ghosting. It's about gravity. It's about you having a life so full and a frame so steady that her attention orbits naturally. Your withdrawal isn't a tactic, it's a truth. It's proof you have better things to do than chase. And that truth is the one force you can't fake, the force that flips you from option to obsession. Most men treat their attention like loose change, throwing it everywhere, hoping someone notices. But attention is currency. Scarcity drives value. The rarer it is, the more it's worth. Every instant reply, every knee-jerk like, every double tap on her story tells her exactly where she stands and exactly how little you value your own energy. How much of your attention is on autopilot? How much of your time has she earned versus how much have you given for free? He stopped checking her stories for 3 days. She noticed she texted him for the first time in weeks. Scarcity changed the game. He didn't disappear. He became deliberate. He didn't punish. He prioritized. Suddenly, she's not scrolling past. She's wondering. She's investing. She's reaching out. Ask yourself, if your time is your most valuable asset, why would you hand it to someone who hasn't proven they respect it? Why would you respond instantly to someone who hasn't earned priority? When you give away unlimited access, you erase your mystery. When you control access, you create gravity. If they flood you with noise, you carve space with silence. If they demand a reaction, you control the pace. Silence is not weakness, it's the screening process. She will either respect the pause or reveal her entitlement. Either way, you get the truth without saying a word. Think of every instant reply as a withdrawal from your own value bank. Think of every delayed response as an investment in your long-term leverage. He didn't play games, he built standards. He didn't ghost, he grew focus. This is not manipulation, it's a selection. It's the difference between being on call like customer support and being the prize that must be pursued. When you stop overgiving attention, you flip the energy flow. She has to step forward, she has to wonder, she has to test herself against your standards. And when she does, the entire dynamic shifts. If he chases every notification, you anchor on purpose. If she accelerates, you slow down. If she withdraws, you stand still. That steadiness forces her to meet you on your terms, instead of you shrinking to fit hers. Your attention is the throne. Every time you hand it over for free, you lower its height. Every time you withhold it with purpose, you raise its altitude. The higher the throne, the stronger the pull. Scarcity turns background noise into a siren call, and that's how you invert the investment, not by tricks, but by discipline, by silence, by self-respect forged into a habit she can't ignore. Most men only know two extremes. Smother her with constant presence or vanish completely and call it strength. Both are weak. True power is withdrawing without disappearing. It's distance laced with presence. It's restraint mixed with warmth. It's the difference between standing tall in your frame and playing childish games that sabotage trust. Ghosting is cowardice. It's running from connection because you fear rejection. Withdrawal with standards is discipline. It's staying grounded, present, but unattached. She feels your energy in the room, but she also feels that you aren't begging for her validation. That paradox is magnetic. Can you hold your frame when silence stretches? Can you stay composed when she leaves space, instead of scrambling to fill it with noise? At a cafe, he listens more than he speaks. She leans in, volunteering stories to fill his pauses. Stillness pulls words out of her. He didn't ignore, he invited. He didn't retreat, he received. His presence was felt in every pause. That's withdrawing without disappearing, the silence that draws more, not the absence that kills connection. Your body language tells the story before you open your mouth. The man who fidgets, leans forward too much, rushes to answer, he communicates need. The man who sits steady, shoulders relaxed, gaze direct but unforced, he communicates abundance. One is grasping for attention, the other lets attention orbit. Which one do you think she respects? Which one do you think she obsesses over later? If she tests you with silence, you deepen your stillness, not your chatter. If she throws a pause into the conversation, you don't panic. You let the silence breathe, and she reveals herself in the discomfort. That's when you learn who she is, patient or insecure, grounded or erratic. Silence becomes your X-ray. Ritual matters here. Don't respond instantly every time she texts. Don't always be the first to fill the air. Train yourself in delayed reaction. Train yourself in composed stillness. This isn't a trick, it's a signal. You're showing her, without words, that you live from abundance, not scarcity. You don't need to perform for approval. You approve of yourself first. She notices this energy. She notices you aren't rushing to spill every detail about your life. She notices you can let a conversation breathe because you're not desperate for validation. And that gap that poised restraint creates fascination. She leans in to close the space. She invests to break the tension. Remember this, he didn't vanish. He became selective. He didn't ghost. He set gravity. Women don't obsess over the man who disappears completely. They forget him. They obsess over the man who is near yet untouchable, warm yet self-contained, present yet never clinging. That's the art of withdrawing without disappearing. Not escape, but elevation. Not punishment, but posture. Not coldness, but command. When you master this, you never need to chase again. You won't need cheap tactics or endless pursuit. You'll simply embody a presence so composed, so steady, that every silence deepens her curiosity, every pause heightens her desire, and every moment of restraint makes her move closer. That's not manipulation, that's the rarest standard of self-respect. Most men think withdrawal alone is power. But if you're hollow inside, if you're scrolling in the dark with no mission, withdrawal is just hiding. The fortress of standards is what gives your absence weight. Without it, you're an empty room, hoping someone walks in. With it, you're a castle with a drawbridge. Not everyone gets inside. Would you desire you if you were her? Would you respect a man who has nothing but tactics and no substance beneath? He's at the gym at 6 a.m., not scrolling. His calendar is full of projects. Her texts wait. His absence has weight because his life has mass. He didn't ghost, he grew. He didn't withdraw to punish. He withdrew to build. Every rep in the gym, every skill learned, every dollar invested becomes invisible gravity she can feel but not see. Your first pillar is a mission. The mission turns every hour into a magnet. When you know why you're alive, you stop reacting and start directing. Your second pillar is discipline. Discipline turns desire into structure. Wake times, training sessions, reading blocks, financial habits, all of it signals self-respect. Your third pillar is discernment. Discernment turns your standards into filters. Who gets your time? Who doesn't? What you tolerate, what you refuse. Together they build a fortress no tactic can fake. Ask yourself, are your habits showing her a man of depth or a man of distraction? Are your mornings spent building or scrolling? Are your evenings invested or wasted? If your life is small, your withdrawal looks like insecurity. If your life is expansive, your withdrawal looks like power. Micro-commitments make restraint effortless. Wake up at the same time. Lift 3 days a week. Read 30 pages a day. Invest 10% of every check. These aren't random tasks. They're signals to yourself that your time matters. They're proof you don't need constant stimulation. And when you no longer crave stimulation, you stop chasing validation. If you don't guard your time, no one else will. If she pressures you to break your routine, you hold your ground. If she tries to test your focus, you keep building. This is how standards teach others how to treat you without a single speech. Body language follows naturally. Shoulders back, eye contact calm, voice unhurried. You're not pushing her out, you're pulling your energy in. You're warm but not needy, present but not dependent. This isn't acting, it's alignment. He didn't reject her, he respected himself. He didn't build walls, he built value. That value becomes the moat around your castle. She crosses it because she wants to, not because you begged her to. And when she arrives, she finds a man who has already built a life he's proud of, not a boy hiding behind tactics. This is what makes withdrawal real. It's not a performance. It's a byproduct of having something more important than chasing. It's a lifestyle that turns your time into treasure and your presence into a privilege. Once you live this way, you won't have to wonder how to act. Your standards will act for you. Your fortress will hold. Your absence will have weight, and your presence will become the reward she works for, not the consolation she expects. Mystery is not an accident. It's a discipline. Most men spill their entire life story on the first date, thinking transparency will buy intimacy. It doesn't. It cheapens it. The psychology of unanswered questions is ancient. Curiosity grows in the space between what's shown and what's withheld. When was the last time she wondered about you? When was the last time she had to imagine the missing pieces instead of scrolling your entire life online? He told one story about his travels, then pivoted to asking about her. She pictured the other 90% herself, more vivid than reality. He didn't hide, he hinted. He didn't withhold punishment, he withheld to deepen. That gap became the canvas for her imagination, and imagination always paints in brighter colors than reality. Oversharing is the default of the weak. The man who posts every thought, every location, every feeling, trains the world to be bored. The man who reveals selectively, who speaks with intention, who leaves unanswered questions, he trains the world to lean in. Think about celebrity mystique versus oversharing culture. The one who gives interviews rarely, drops images occasionally, and speaks in signals creates a frenzy. The one who live streams every meal becomes background noise. Which one are you training her to see? If curiosity rises, you don't rush to satisfy it. You let it season. If she asks about your weekend, you give one vivid detail, then pivot to something meaningful about her. You create a rhythm where she gives more to get more. You create a chase not by running but by moving with intention. He didn't disappear, he became deliberate. He didn't lie, he layered. This isn't manipulation, it's contrast. You're giving her enough light to see your outline, not enough to map the whole terrain. And the unknown terrain is where fascination lives. Ask yourself, are you a book she's already read, or a series she can't stop thinking about between episodes? Are you dumping every episode at once or releasing one at a time, letting the anticipation build? Mystery isn't silence, it's timing. It's a contrast. It's knowing that if you talk about your gym habit, you don't also spill your business plans, your family drama, and your ambitions in the same breath. Strategic mystery also lives in your body language. The man who leans back slightly, holds a pause before answering, and uses calm eye contact signals self-possession. The man who fills every gap with chatter signals insecurity. Which one would you respect? Which one would you chase? If he answers instantly, you delay. If she tests your stillness, you deepen it. If she pries for more, you smile and redirect. This is not playing hard to get. This is living as a man with a life so full he can't possibly narrate it all. Your presence suggests depth because depth exists, and when you do reveal, make it cinematic. One line about the city you visited. One sensory detail about the mountain you climbed. Then pivot back to her world. Let her imagination take that single scene and stretch it into a whole film. That film is far more potent than any data dump you could provide. He didn't ghost, he grew gravity. He didn't confuse, he created contrast. Strategic mystery turns stillness into fascination, absence into anticipation, and your life into a story she wants to enter. Practice this, and you stop being just another man scrolling for attention. You become the question she can't stop asking, the puzzle she keeps solving, and the experience she chooses to pursue over and over again. Most men think testing is manipulation. It's not. Testing done right is simply revealing the truth. Boundaries reveal entitlement fast. Standards expose character instantly. Who remains when benefits stop? Who shows up when access is no longer automatic? That's what ethical withdrawal shows you, not by games, but by reality. He rescheduled their second date politely. She replied, supportive, not bitter. Green flag earned. He didn't ghost. He gauged. He didn't punish. He prioritized. That single moment of delayed access showed her character more clearly than months of small talk ever could. Ask yourself, are you playing hard or living standards? One is theater, the other is truth. One is manipulation, the other is magnetism. Can you live a life so disciplined that your no is normal, your boundaries automatic, and your withdrawal just the byproduct of a full schedule? If someone panics at your boundary, you find their ceiling. If they pressure you to lower your standards, you found their limits. If they respond with respect, you found potential. This is the cleanest filter you'll ever use. Most men test by creating drama. They stir jealousy. They vanish to get a reaction. They invent rivalries. That's childish. The man who truly lives standards doesn't need theatrics. He simply says, "I'm busy. Tuesday. Let's do Thursday." And then watches how she reacts. Her reaction tells him everything about her maturity, her patience, and her self-respect. He didn't withdraw to manipulate. He withdrew to calibrate. He didn't delay to tease. He delayed because his priorities are real. That's why ethical withdrawal feels different in the air. It's not punishment, it's posture. It's a man who can say no without fear, and yes without desperation. Ask yourself again, who remains when benefits stop? Who keeps showing up when the free ride ends? Who gets defensive? Who adapts? Who leaves? Who levels up? This is where you discover the truth of people. You'll never find it while giving unlimited access. If he gives all access instantly, you pull it back gradually. If she tests your stillness, you deepen it. If a friend, colleague, or partner becomes hostile at your boundary, you just got your clearest signal. Testing without manipulating isn't about catching someone, it's about seeing them. Boundaries also build attraction. People instinctively respect what's earned. They instinctively devalue what's free. Your polite delay, your firm but warm no, your consistent routine, these communicate self-respect louder than speeches. And because they're real, they can't be faked. This is why ethical withdrawal screens for compatibility and character. It's a silent interview. It's a pressure test without force. It shows who can handle your standards and who will crumble. And it trains you to trust your eyes, not your hopes. He didn't test to trap. He tested to see. He didn't withhold the wound. He withheld to weigh. That's the difference between manipulation and mastery. And once you live this difference, you won't need tricks. You'll simply let time, space, and standards reveal everything for you, clean, quiet, undeniable. Selectivity is status. The rare man is automatically high value because of scarcity frames worth. If everyone can reach you, your time is cheap. If only a few can reach you, your time is gold. Do you want to be everyone's option or one woman's decision? Do you want to be seen as a commodity or as a standard? 3 texts hit his phone: party invite, hookup hint, business pitch. He accepts only the pitch. Others recalibrate. Respect rises. He didn't reject them, he refined them. He didn't pull back to punish. He pulled back to prioritize. That one choice told the world who he is and how he values his hours. Social proof and silence work together. Every time you say no to a low-value invitation, you send a signal to the high-value ones watching. They see your boundaries. They see your discernment. They recognize the difference between a man scrambling for attention and a man who can afford to be still. If he says yes to everything, you say no to yourself. If she pressures you for instant access, you hold your ground. If a friend demands you cancel your work for their drama, you stay on task. That isn't arrogance. It's alignment. It's refusing to sell your focus cheap. Think of celebrities who are always on camera, oversharing every hour. People consume them and move on. Then think of the ones who rarely post, who choose their appearances. Their mystery multiplies their value. Which one do you emulate when you answer every text instantly and show up everywhere? Selectivity also lives in your body language. The man who takes a breath before answering signals self-respect. The man who immediately explains himself to everyone signals dependence. Your silence is not absence. It's evidence. Evidence you're filtering, weighing, choosing. Evidence you're too focused on building to chase low-return noise. Ask yourself, how many hours each week are stolen by people, habits, and invitations that don't align with your mission? How many times have you said yes when you meant no? The rare man cuts that noise. He says no more than he says yes, and because of that, Yes, he does give hits like a thunderclap. He didn't withdraw to hide, he withdrew to heighten. He didn't say no to insult, he said no to invest. That reframing is crucial. People who can handle your no will respect your yes. People who can't handle your no will disqualify themselves for you. Either way, you win clarity. If someone complains about your boundaries, that's their reveal. If someone respects your boundaries, that's your green flag. This is how selectivity weeds out chaos without drama. This is how silence and standards become your reputation. When you stop being everywhere, you become somewhere important. When you stop being always available, you become a prize to earn. Selectivity turns your presence into a privilege, and status is simply the echo of disciplined decisions repeated until everyone knows your time is rare. That is the power of withdrawal, linked to pre-selection. Not a trick, but a way of living that makes respect automatic. The art of withdrawal means nothing without the art of advancing. Pulling back creates tension. Stepping forward releases it. This is where most men fail. They either stay away too long and lose the spark, or rush back too soon and kill the mystery. How do you step forward without falling into chase? How do you re-enter her space without losing the frame you built? After a week of cool distance, he calls with a clear plan for Friday. She agrees instantly, relieved and intrigued. He didn't rush back for approval. He returned with leadership. He didn't break the silence to seek. He broke it to guide. That's the difference between chasing and advancing. Think of tension as a bowstring. If you pull it back and never release, nothing flies. If you never pull it back at all, nothing builds. Advance is the release after the draw. Advance is clarity after silence. Your move should feel inevitable, not impulsive. Timed disclosure is your secret weapon. Don't dump all your stories at once. Don't rush to fill every gap. Share one vivid detail, then pause. Give her a plan, then let her respond. Every piece you reveal is a small investment, not a desperate gamble. If you withdraw with purpose, you advance with clarity. If she accelerates with curiosity, you respond with direction. If she lingers in uncertainty, you step forward with a solid plan. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about knowing when to lead and when to let space work for you. Ask yourself, is my outreach about leadership or validation? Am I moving because the time is right, or because my ego feels neglected? If your life is full, your advance will feel like a gift, not a plea. If your mission is empty, your advance will feel like a demand. He didn't advance to prove, he advanced to provide. He didn't reappear to beg, he reappeared to build. That's why his calls land differently. That's why his invitations convert. He's not knocking on her door hoping for scraps. He's opening a door to an experience she can step into. When you decide to advance, be concrete. Offer a clear time, a clear place, a clear vibe. I'm free Friday at 8. Let's check out that rooftop spot. Short, direct, confident. No paragraphs, no apologies. That's how you break the silence like a man with a plan. If she tests your pause, you don't panic. You let it breathe, then re-enter on your own terms. If she's still there, it's a green light. If she's gone, you learned early. Either way, you win clarity. This is why the advance is never a chase. It's a reveal. Ask yourself again, how do I step forward without falling into chase? You do it by maintaining the standards you built during withdrawal. You do it by keeping your life full and your communication crisp. You do it by remembering that presence is a privilege, and you're offering it deliberately, not spraying it recklessly. When you master this rhythm, draw back, hold, then release. You stop being the man who clings and start being the man who commands the tempo. You become the conductor of the interaction, not the passenger. And that is how tension turns into intrigue, Intrigue turns into investment, and investment turns into a dynamic she respects, rather than a game she endures. Withdrawal is not supposed to stay a tactic forever. It has to become who you are. At first, you think about when to text, when to pause, when to step back. But the long game identity shift makes withdrawal automatic. It stops being a trick. It becomes your standard. What's rarer, the man who texts less or the man who lives more? That's the question that defines your future. 6 months in, he no longer thinks about withdrawing. He's just busy becoming formidable. His mornings belong to training, his days to mission, his nights to recovery. Women orbit naturally, not because he's chasing or scheming, but because his gravity pulls without effort. He didn't hold back on the test. He held back because his focus was elsewhere. He didn't disappear to confuse. He disappeared on purpose. If your life is the prize, you don't dangle it, you live it. You don't tease value, you embody it. When you live more, restraint isn't a strategy, it's a byproduct. The man who constantly thinks about, should I text or not, is still trapped in tactics. The man who is too invested in his craft, his vision, his discipline, he doesn't even need to think. Distance happens because his life is heavy with meaning. Ask yourself, do you want to be the man calculating withdrawals forever, or the man who doesn't need to? Do you want to play the role or become the role? The transition from tactics to being is what separates boys chasing tricks from men living standards. If he obsesses over access, you build momentum. If he spends his energy on her moods, you spend yours on your mission. The more you build, the less you need to pull back on purpose. Presence becomes a privilege, absence becomes natural, and your standards live louder than your words. This is the long game identity shift, not acting withdrawn, but becoming full. Not trying to control perception, but living with such density that perception bends on its own. You stop performing, you start embodying, and once you do, the law of attraction no longer feels like a law you're applying. It feels like gravity you are. He didn't vanish. He became visible through scarcity. He didn't ignore. He prioritized. He didn't withdraw to punish. He withdrew to purify. He didn't test. He clarified. He didn't scatter his energy. He stacked it until it became undeniable. Picture this micro-story. A man once glued to his phone deletes every dating app, starts building a business, and 6 months later, women ask about him, not the other way around. His stillness becomes his broadcast. His absence becomes a legend. He didn't ghost. He gained gravity. He didn't beg. He built. He didn't chase. He chose. She didn't pursue. She positioned. She didn't guess. She adjusted. Each shift reframes your role from operator to standard, from seeker to selector. If he floods with words, you respond with silence. If she tests your boundaries, you double down on your routine. If curiosity rises, you don't rush to satisfy it. You let it season. This is not cruelty, it's calibration. He didn't hoard attention, he created anticipation. He didn't try to be everywhere, he became somewhere rare. He didn't broadcast every move, he revealed only what mattered. The mystery pulled her closer than 1,000 messages ever could. Ask yourself, which story do you want told about you, the man always available or the man worth waiting for? Which identity do you inhabit, the commodity or the standard? The echo of your choices writes your legend. He didn't vanish from life. He filled his life. He didn't dangle value. He lived it. He didn't run from intimacy. He raised the cost of entry. And by doing so, he turned his presence into a privilege, his time into treasure, and his silence into a magnet that pulls the world toward him. Behaviors are not people. Withdrawal isn't a label you slap on her or yourself. It's a behavior you choose. And here's the brutal truth. Consent and autonomy are non-negotiable. If she's not choosing freely, it isn't power. It's weakness disguised as control. Do you want respect or compliance? Do you want obsession or obligation? Picture this. A man withdrew by ignoring every message, hoping she'd panic. She didn't. She blocked him. He thought he was strong. He was just manipulative. He didn't set standards. He tried to trap. That's the line you never cross. If he withdraws to coerce, you step back to build. If she resists, you honor it. If she chooses distance, you let her go. Because the man who withdraws ethically builds trust, not tension. He didn't vanish to punish. He stepped back to prioritize. He didn't silence her voice. He amplified his standards. That's the only frame that preserves freedom on both sides, and freedom is the foundation of real desire.